again for joining us on the program TMI Monday. I've got with me in the studio two frontline civil society activists in Nigeria. I'd like to thank very especially Reverend David Ogola. Reverend David Ogola is Executive Director of Environmental Rights Action, African Network for Environment and Economic Justice. Reverend Ogola, many thanks for joining us on the program.
Thank you very much.
Okay. And I also have with me in the studio the Coordinator General of Edo State Civil Society Organization, Comrade Omobode Agu. Many thanks for joining us.
Sorry, good morning.
Well, I already led the cat out of the bag. Of course, Dr. Galvin Uyi Ojo is Executive Director of Environmental Rights Action and Friends of the Earth Nigeria. He will be joining us shortly in this studio. Well, what we're looking at, citizens' participation, projects, monitoring, execution, and policy implementation is the thrust of our discussion this beautiful Monday morning. We just want to see where we are in terms of citizens' participation in governance and to what extent are they taking advantage of their rights, their privileges, their powers to ensure that they hold government accountable to promises made. That's the thrust of our discussion. And let me begin with Reverend David Ogola. Yeah, the citizens are aware. Who are the citizens? Let's begin from that foundation. Maybe we need to set that template for this conversation.
First, let me thank you, Sonny Duke, for inviting us to participate in this important discussion. First, you and I, we are citizens. Citizens are the people that make up the country. And coming from where you are asking your question, the role of the citizen is very clear in the Constitution. That, again, provides the legal framework for our engagement in the whole democratic space. And for the purpose of this discussion, citizens expect some services from the government. And at the same time, citizens are also expected to also fulfill some obligation by paying their tax. And within that space of framework, you expect that things like a social contract happens. And that's why citizens demand some certain services from government. In the case of Nigeria, unfortunately, these services are hardly delivered. And at the same time, citizens hardly demands, and that has provided the whole trouble that we have faced in the country today. So we will say a social contract working in Nigeria. Well, maybe when we continue the discussion, we will certainly understand where we are coming from.
Okay, Comrade Omobode Agu, where are we in terms of citizens' participation in project execution, formulation, monitoring, policy implementation? Where are we?
We are still at very close to the zero level. We're just climbing up, trying to climb up to the chapter 1 of citizen participation in project management. First, it is ownership. Before participating, there must first be ownership. Citizens must realize that to every project that is awarded or given in your area, you own it. But again, those at the aim of leadership have not educated the people enough, or they don't want people to know enough to the extent that they own this project. So the leaders or the political leaders treat the project as if it's a largesse to the people, or as if it's a gift or a privilege to the people, not making people to realize that they own it. It is their funds. So whatever work they are doing is there. So a lot of our persons are very ignorant till now that they own this project. So participation is very so ownership first has not come to play. Not talk of that's why participation is difficult. Like I said, we are still at a very just a little above zero level, you know, by my rating. Okay. But it's our duty now to educate the people and let them know that these projects belong to them. They must own it. They must take responsibility for it from the beginning to the end. They are the ones to certify it, whether it is okay or not. They are the ones to even decide whether they want it or not, you know. So whereas the people see it as, if they like, they do them. If they like, they not do them. They like a good, they like it, and as soon as they do them, now it tells you that the people don't know that they own this project. And so the participation is still very, very low. Okay,
Reverend Ogola, there's a seeming apathy on the part of the people towards governance, as it were, particularly from the perspectives of projects, you know, formulation, execution, and all of. Why is this apathy there?
Well, it's when you put the democratic experiment into perspective, where we're coming from since 90s, you found that the key political institutions that would have provided a platform for people to engage either in monitoring project or engaging in policy dialogue, they are failing. If you take, for example, political party, as you know, in any democratic system, the political party as an institution was supposed to provide a space for citizens to engage, either as a political party member. The political party stands for a particular ideology, either for free market or socialist ideology. And on the basis of that platform, people engage in that platform, expecting that they push one particular ideological framework, either for transparency or accountability, like you have in the United States. You have the Republican, you have the Democrat. And there is real democracy within those political institutions. And so they participate, they are engaged. But unfortunately, you and I can see that in the last few years, the political party as an institution that's supposed to provide that platform for citizens is failing. And political parties are increasingly being owned by individuals, and that unfortunately do not provide the space for citizens to engage. And then you go now to the press. Ownership of press across the entire country is rather becoming too close, that the ownership is concentrated in few hands. And unfortunately, these few hands that own the press, either the electronic or the media, are also tied to the political system that is not very transparent. And so for the media houses to survive, they need fund. And unfortunately, the only way, the content for them to survive is from government that patronize them. And because of this survival instinct, they are not able to provide the space for citizens to really have expression in their platform. And then you take about mobilization at the community level, either at the student level. Recall back when we were in Ekpoma, you saw the role of students in governance. When things are going wrong in the country, citizens can be mobilized to the street and demand some explanation from government. Now, the student union government across the campus, across the country, has been destroyed completely. So you don't have the voice of the people again in the university. And that's why you can see that a lecturer can harass a student and nothing happens. And things that you expect, responses from the university, nothing happens. Then you also have ASU, the trade union, the NSC. These are all institutions that would have strengthened the opportunity for participation. Not all these institutions have been affected because of what has happened. And so this is what has impaired the democratic process. And then the few politicians who have been able to take control of the political party, they now have been able to create a space for themselves. And that has become difficult for citizens to engage. Now, where are we now? Because in the long run, we are all victims of the system. Because obviously, now the major things that citizens are supposed to be doing in the country is demand accountability from government. There are key institutions, for example, the budget. Like my comrade rightly noted, there is issue of ownership. If citizens will own a process in development process, what do you need to know? You need to know how government will allocate resources. What is the basis of allocation? And that's why you see when Brigade came to Nigeria recently, our governments are increasingly keen to invest in infrastructure rather than investing in human capital, because knowledge is power. When the people are properly educated, they will be able to answer the right question. But in the case of Nigeria today, you see governors who decides to invest in building government house, who is interested in building airports, because these are billion infrastructural projects. 10% of it goes straight to whoever that have initiated the project. But if you invest in primary school, you invest in secondary school, the workforce, the educated people will be able to answer the right questions in future. But unfortunately, this is not the interest of our current political elite in the country, because their children don't attend the school, their children are in overseas, and that is where we are today. But in the long run, I've always told people, there is a boomerang. Who are victims of this system today? We are all victims.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, comrade, what's your take on the role democracy or lack of it has played in terms of helping citizens to participate in governance, as it were? I've seen clips of you moving from one project. For a moment I was thinking, okay, is Comrade Omobudearu now a contractor? But of course, you look at the right out to this picture, you can situate it properly, what those monitoring and all of that is about. How has democracy helped citizens to participate in governance?
No, by the original definition of democracy, is something I opened with, to say the citizens own. But the political elites, like Reverend again just realigned, don't want the people to know. Because if the people get educated about these things, then it will reduce their chances of stealing the public funds. So they rather want to build infrastructure and get you distracted, make you see them tying roads, make you see them working on stadiums and gigantic projects, rather than developing the minds of the people. Okay. So what we do, because we have ourselves decided to educate ourselves, by what we do is to try to educate people as much as possible. That's why we have study centers across the state. We want to bring people together, teach them, make them get familiar with the laws of the land, and make them see this place of the social contract, that the demand part of the law is far outweighed the supply part. Those in the demand highly outnumber those in the supply. The political elites are only in the supply. They are in the supply part, which makes about 8% of the law. Then the demand side is about 92%, which makes a population of the masses. So why would the few, according to our brother Godo, why would the microscopic few determine the future or the destiny of the mass populace? It's because the mass populace are not aware. It's not that they didn't go to school. We even have those that have PhDs. We have those that are senior pastors in big churches there, and yet they are ignorant of the things that happen in this political space. For us, is to try to put them together, educate them, then take them to the field to do practical. That's why you see us moving from one construction site to another construction site to make demands according to the law of the social contract. The project is owned by us. So in the law of social, in the interpretation of social contract, it means that we own the contract itself. The chapter 2, section 14 precisely of the 1999 constitution, it says citizens are guaranteed. It is duly guaranteed to participate in their government. That means citizen owns the government. The highest office in the entire Nigeria is the office of the citizen of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. That is the truth. It is far higher than the office of Mr. President, and far higher than the Aso Rock itself. Because without you, according to the law, without you, the president cannot be president. Without you, there is no need for Aso Rock. Then if it is you from whom all these other authorities derive his power, how come you are not able to determine what happens in the system? How come they just tell you and you say it's okay? It's because of ignorance. Our people are not educated enough. To be educated, what would mean? It's not that you must go to the university, you must have attained the 4 years of university. It's just the ability to read, write. Some people, you don't even need to read and write. Just hear these things and know it and take charge of it. Own the process, demand for accountability at all time, demand for transparency at all time. The democracy has given us the space, a mega space, very big space for citizens to participate and know what happens. But again, like I said, the political elite, the microscopic few, will not invest in developing our primary schools, will not invest in developing our secondary schools so that the children of the ordinary man could learn at all, like Reverend have said, because their children don't attend these schools. So they don't even want it to work.
Reverend, is this a hopeless situation?
It's not a hopeless situation. It's actually not just a Nigerian problem, it's a global problem. I was just reading the latest economics, and I was seeing what is happening in the Eastern Europe. Governance is failing around the world, even in the US. And the latest economics newspaper was just talking about Donald Trump not allowing different perspectives to emerge in the neutral culture of democracy in America. So what is happening in Nigeria is not different, but is the things hopeless? No. For example, if you recall, when the vice president visited Edo State, the government of Edo State did nominate, invited some civil society, and I happens to be invited by the Edo State government, where we presented an independent report of what we did monitor across the Niger Delta. Before now, we thought that NDDC and Ministry of Niger Delta are key institutions that are supposed to intervene in development in the region. But they are failing because of what we will refer to in political economy as principal agency problem. And what I mean by principal agency problem is that when the agent is sufficiently knowledgeable and the principal don't have enough information to control the agent, they become a problem. Mm-hmm. So there is information asymmetry. Now, the people that run this country, particularly in the Niger Delta, the NDDC and the Ministry of Niger Delta and the government across, they have enough information about the resources that come into the country. The citizens that are supposed to be the principal, they are not knowledgeable enough. And because of the problem of information asymmetry, Then you see resources that are supposed to be going for human capital development is going to building airports, building empty roads, building empty bridges, and that's why we have not seen development. So when the vice president came, I was privileged to provide him an independent report carried out by civil society across the entire state. If you recall, when the vice president, Osibajo, was responding, when he acknowledged that report, he did say that he was going to respond. How many months now? How many years now? Nothing has happened. Now, we just came up with another new report again now. The 9 states across the Niger Delta, we've gone out with civil society across the 9 states. We've monitored the projects across the states. We've come out with a new report that will be launched this next month. And what's the report saying? What is the real key outcome of the report? Government allocate, particularly NDDC, as we speak, over 70% of their project, none is completed, and money has been allocated. Ownership of the companies that have got these contracts are all concentrated within one unit, and government have proclaimed that they want to make things happen. These things are not functioning. Ministry of Niger Delta as well too is not opening space for citizens to engage, and this is the same government that have signed on to Open Government Partnership, OGP, and the whole basis of OGP is what they call co-creation, building partnership between citizens and government, because the social legitimacy of any government is how government is able to open policy dialogue with the citizens. Because when that happens, government, they co-create policy that the people can own, that can drive development, and that's the whole basis for sustainable development, the SDG goals. But our government see that it's we versus them, particularly in this fractious political system. Everything, if you are not in government, you are initiating an idea, there is mutual suspicion. And you don't run the country like that. Unfortunately, the future is not about who is in government. It's about the person that is able to bring an idea on the table that will drive growth. And what Edo State, for example, need, what Niger Delta needs today, what kind of initiative can drive growth in Edo State? And first, the government must be able to open so that idea can come on table. But when we continue to run government on the basis of monthly allocation, there is no way the money will be enough to run the country, to run the state, to run the region. What we need today for the future is different perspective. How do we expand the coast? Because the rate of unemployment in the country today, one government cannot provide it all. And the only way government can challenge the current paradigm is to allow private sector to grow, is to allow alternative view to have their space. And that's why we think that if they allow citizens to monitor projects, it provides a good space for the government. If they allow the citizens to engage the government, more co-creation will happen. And once there is co-creation, what will happen? You drive growth. And once there is growth, the unemployment level will reduce. Crime will reduce. The problem you are finding in northeast part of the country today will reduce. But unfortunately, conflict is now becoming a major source of revenue of survival in Nigeria. Okay. What you see in the northeast today, what you see in the Niger Delta, the crisis, is feeding some few minority in the country.
Okay, that's a very interesting subject for another day. Conflict as a source of revenue within the Nigerian context, but it's a subject for another day. Quickly, comrade, there's a dimension to this whole discussion which centers on the fact that each time a citizen, an organization dares to ask a question or tries to engage, you are branded as an opposition. What do you make of that as a challenge in this citizens' participation?
I think it's a political gimmicks to shut people up. And we think that Nigerians shouldn't be bothered about that anymore because we are too used to it. If a thing continues to happen over and over and over again, instead of trying to fight it, just get used to it and push it aside. You know, for us, we don't bother anymore when people say those things. We just go ahead and do the things we need to do because those things are the things that matters. You know, this guy is the opposition party that is sponsoring them. It's the other party that is sponsoring them to destabilize us from the nonsense they are saying or the accusation. If people could listen very well, they will see the truth from that statement. So that doesn't bother us anymore. All we'll keep insisting is we want the system to be opened up. Citizens must see what's happening. We want to see transparency. The total complete fight against the corruption, we must remove it so that we must get things to work. Like Reverend said, he said the political elite don't want to open the space and allow people to participate. That we've since noticed, and we think that we can't continue that grammar. We must force ourselves to participate in the government.
You force yourself into
yes, because system. It's guaranteed in this, like I quoted in section 14, yeah. It's guaranteed in the Constitution that we as citizens, which is the highest office in this country, the office of the citizen of the Federal Republic of Nigeria is the highest office, is guaranteed to participate in their government, in our government. So no person should tell you when to, how to, or where to. You will just know that constitutionally you are guaranteed to participate. So all you need to do is be involved, take charge of ownership. There is no way a tenant can be so rich that it becomes more important than the landlord. It's not possible. That's the same story. As citizens, we own the system. The ones that are there, the political elites or those we voted in, they are just mere tenants whose tenures is transient, is for a period. Though after that time we can kick them out or retain them if they perform better. What we give them is a photocopy of our rights to perform for a time. The original copy of that right is with every one of us. You have your voter's card. I have my voter's card. That is the originality of our power. You know, so how come you that have original will become second class to the man that has a photocopy? So the point I'm trying to say is that whatever they say shouldn't count. Okay. We should just keep doing what we need to do and openly space ourselves.
Let me just go a bit political. The recall process of Senator Dino Melaye in Kogi West, we saw the outcome of that recall process. It failed. Is that in any way telling us something about the power of the citizen to ensure good governance within the framework of this discussion of citizen participation?
Yes, first, again, I must commend the Kogi State people for, again, demonstrating that the people's power can prevail, even if the authority choose otherwise. And what has happened in Kogi, again, has it reinforced the message that when people are organized, no matter how authoritarian the government is, they can overthrow that government. And lessons we can glean from there is that people should get organized. Come 2019, if you feel that the government is not performing, rather than lamenting, get your voter's card, like Omobode rightly said. And that's the only future for our country. Because today is 99% versus 1%. But people, the political elites that control the wealth of this country are less than 1%. And unfortunately, the most painful aspect of it all is that the people that control the wealth of this country, they don't use it for any productive end. Like I tell you, if you look around in the country today, the wealthy people who have got money, not because they have knowledge, not because they have any skill to offer, not because they have any innovation to offer, but because of their privileged position, either because he's a governor, either because he's an in-law to a governor, either because he's a senator. That's why. But what has the money gone? You have seen that the only highest politicians do is to build a hotel, is to buy land, is to purchase things that are unacceptable. Look what has happened to the Deputy Senate President, Ekoromadu. Can you imagine those wealth, those houses all over the world? For what purpose? And you'll be surprised when you go to the village of Ekoromadu, you will find that the roads are not built, the schools are not built. So this is the shameful aspect we face in the country today, that the political elite, they have not only brought shame to the country. That's why you see the Fulani herdsmen crisis here and there. They are product of lack of constructed thinking that will help the country to define the future. So the Kogi lesson again defines the future. People should not bother themselves about lamenting, because lamentation won't help you. Okay. I'm very encouraged about the move now that the Christians are moving. But I don't want to put the debate between Christian and Muslim. People are getting it wrong. When they put the debate between North and South, people are getting it wrong. There's nothing like that. An average chief in the Niger Delta is a friend to an average chief from the North. These guys, they are all brothers and sisters. They think the same. These few political elite in the country, the rich man in Benin and the rich man in the North that gains from political party, they are friends. They work together. There's no difference when it comes to Muslim and Christianity. We should not be deceived by these people. All we need to do is to get organized, mobilize ourselves, and speak with one voice. One thing that unites us across North, South, East, West is poverty. And it is the rich versus the poor. And we qualify the rich. The very rich who made their money through entrepreneurship, we must separate them away from the very rich who make their money through political stealing. And the only way to define the future is to get organized. Even participation does not get you what you want if you don't get engaged with knowledge. And that's why in civil society today, we are not just restricting ourselves by just saying government should open the space. Like he said, we are defining the space. We want to engage, and we think in the long interest of government to open the space for us to engage. And when we have that happens, we have what they call transparent democratic process. And it will be in the interest of government, because you can be a governor today, tomorrow you are not governor. And I've seen roads that people have allocated, and they do it in a shoddy way. And on their way taking that road back to their village, they died on the way. So, and it happens everywhere. Even their investment is not doing well. You steal money from government today, use it to build a hotel. After 2-3 months, the hotel is not doing well because there's no good road for people to take to the hotel. Because they don't think. You know, when you steal money, even in their hotel they build, when you go to the hotel, you see that this man stole this money. Because if money you are not supposed to be in control, when you are in control of it, you can't use it very well.
Manage it properly.
You cannot. And that's the challenge we face in this country today. But all we need to do is for the civil society, the media, the academics, all of us to mobilize together. We should go and register. We should register. We should encourage our people. And then even the Christians, don't stay in your church and be praying. Faith without work is dead. And we should not put the debate in the perspective north or south or Muslim versus Christian. No! As a grown-up child, I was telling the man before we walked into the studio that we used to stay with the Hausa people. And when I went to my youth service, the guy that was staying on my top of my bunker was an Hausa guy, Fulani man. We all play together. Don't allow this political elite to deceive us. Yeah. We have a big country, good country, great country. What we have seen in the last few years is that we've got a political elite who do not know what to use money to do, but they have destroyed this country. We have a responsibility to reclaim this country from them.
What's your assessment of the role of the civil society in educating the citizens? If we're saying that the political elite has not lived up to expectation in educating the citizens to be able to help them to participate in governance?
I think, let me not save the lizard falls from the tree, and nobody praises the lizard will just put his hand and say, okay, you don't try you. So I will say to myself, we don't try. I'll talk, let me narrow it particularly to Edo Civil Society Organization. What we have, like I said earlier, we have study centers everywhere, and we are still opening up. Yesterday we opened up 2 new study centers, in the state, across the state. On Friday I came back from Anambra. We went to open up 6 study centers in Anambra. We have in the civil society in River State is doing very well now. You saw they came out and they talked about the suit issue, and they got their governor, who people think is a terrible fellow, yes, a wiki, to come. He didn't have a choice. They had to force him to come and participate in the danger of the land. And for the first time, yes, wiki came out and supported the civil society on that agitation, whereas he himself has been gaining from the exploits of what the multinational companies have been doing to them. So that is to the extent we are doing. We have study centers everywhere, so that we don't tell you to come and meet us from your distance. We bring you to your doorstep, gather people, teach them about their fundamental human rights, their participation as citizens, and make them know the strength of being a citizen. And we are doing that, and we are not stopping. We are continuing. Hence, government will not allow people to get educated. Yeah. We will tear up the space and open it for people to come in and get educated. If not getting educated in mathematics and English, but getting educated in civic responsibility and knowing your rights as citizens. And we are doing that every day. We won't get tired. We are building up more instructors. We are building instructors because it's voluntary. People must be voluntarily willing to learn and willing to teach others. Not just learn for yourself and keep alone, but learn to be able to transmit to others so that people can know. We have a lot of persons. Our biggest challenge, like Reverend also said, is the church. The church is not vulnerable. Many people just believe that you just go and you pray and you cry, you shed tears, and you come home. That's where it ends. There are spiritual benefits. There are physical benefits. If you concentrate on the physical, on the spiritual, you will get only the spiritual. You keep suffering the physical, and you keep complaining. But rather, we are saying, come as you are. Those ideologies, those wicked ideologies of the political elite, to say these people, these are Christians, these are Muslims, those are Northerners, these are Southerners, and all that. We are also breaking all those boundaries. We realize that those things that divide us are those funny things, religion, politics, and ethnicity, and we are breaking them apart. Then we are getting our people united. Like I said, the only thing I just heard that for the first time, but I agree. The only thing that unites the ordinary man is poverty. And now we must take advantage of those things, of that poverty, and turn it around to become our prosperity. We must knock out these people that don't believe in the society, that think that the only thing they can give to us is to keep dividing us. We will not get divided. And our food, we have all manner of tribes, including Fulanis. Now the Fulanis among us, we make them relate with other people to make them see that it is not the Fulani man that is bad.
Exactly.
It is the politicians that are sponsoring some marauders to carry out mayhem everywhere and brand them Fulani men. So we,
Exactly.
part of the constitution says we will not discriminate. So we have taught that part in our center. Say don't discriminate. It is not the Fulani man that is bad. It is some sponsored Fulani persons that are bad. When you go to some places and they refer to you as Anini because you are from Bende, either you are from Edo or Delta.
Exactly.
If you are once you are from Edo or Delta and you go to the north, they call you Anini.
Oh, yes.
No, they don't call you anybody anymore. They just say Anini. Once they say Anini, people just know the region you come from.
Yes.
And it is that there was one Lawrence Anini who was a criminal. Doesn't make me and you and David Gono here robbers. That there are some Fulani men who are members of the Boko Haram. Doesn't mean all Fulani men are in the Boko Haram. Exactly. So we must close this divide. We must unite and demand that this few microscopic political elites are kicked out.
All right, last word from you as we call it a wrap.
First, I want to encourage the government to open the space for citizen engagement, because when governors want to present state budget to the House of Assembly, it is incumbent upon government to organize town hall meetings for citizens to engage. Just to draw your attention to it, it is a comrade bus, for example, in Edo State. Have you gone to the place where they collect passengers right away in Ring Road? Now we are approaching rain season now. Sometimes people stay on the queue. They stay on the sun. That is not good for the credibility of any government. Now, with what the government have done to bring more buses, we must commend the government. But to allow citizens to stay on the queue, on the sun, it is unacceptable. And that is not good. And that's the part of the social contract we are talking about. Government must build at least some shade. If people don't have yet a seat in the bus, they can sit down. If you go to Europe, you go to any advanced country, you see how government treat their citizens. And government must also learn to treat their citizens like that here in Edo State. And government must also learn to also engage the people. Engagement is good. That is the only way future that we have for democracy. Without engagement, you cannot see ownership. Right?
All right, thank you very much, Reverend David Okolo and Comrade Omobude Agu, for your participation on the show today. Of course, we're talking about citizens' participation. This is part of it, providing answers to questions and, of course, opening up the space so you can participate. I was particularly thrilled when I read online last night that the APC chairman, Ikogi State, said ghosts initiated the recall of Senator. But I almost laughed when I read it out. It just showed the level of absurdities that you see in this country. But the people must take ownership if we must make impact and change the status quo.
Yeah.
Bring the country to where we want it to be, a country that provides equally for everybody without any iota of discrimination.